About 70 years ago, this brilliant man did something very strange. He used to teach at the Institute of Advanced Study while he was living in Princeton. And every year, he asked the same question to his students in his final exams. The same question every time. So the faculty went up to him and asked him, why? Why do you keep asking the same question? It's getting repetitive. It's getting predictable. Can you please change the question? His response was no. The faculty were quite surprised and they asked him, why? Why don't you want to change the question? He said, the fundamental question about the nature of reality of our universe has always been the same, will always be the same. But our answers, with increased understanding, with advanced science and advanced technology, our answers will keep evolving. So what is the lesson from this story? Some questions never change, but our answers do. And if you think about in life, it's also true. What we value in life when you are a child compared to what you are now keeps changing, right? When you were a child, you loved playing in the mud, getting wet in the rain, eating a lot of chocolates. But now, maybe you prefer time off work, going to a nice vacation. Maybe you value quality relationships in your lives. Some of us still love a lot of chocolates. So maybe some answers do not change after all. But the point is, what you consider as value changes over time. What about in healthcare? Majority of us are from the health industry. If I gave you 5 to 10 seconds to think about few things that come to your mind when we talk about what is valuable in healthcare, in particular, when you think about which medicine to buy, which medicine to reimburse, what do you value? I'll give you 5 seconds. I think the 5 seconds is up. So, I think the first thing that came to your mind, and hopefully, is things like safety, efficacy, and effectiveness. Is that right? And rightly so. These are some of the most important things that we should consider as value of health technologies. Has those value metrics changed over time? It has. Over time, we started valuing things like cost effectiveness, budget impact, right? In a way, we were forced to value these things because of the limited budget that we have to spend on healthcare. And there are other things, million other things that we value, things like equity, feasibility, right? I'm sure everyone had different value metrics. But are we missing something that is quite significant, that has impact not only on human health, health systems, but the entire planet as a whole? I am here to tell you that we are indeed missing that value metric. I'm going to tell you what it is, why it is important, and maybe what can we do about it. Before we can do that though, let's play a quick guessing game. I give you 2 options. The first is car industry. Yeah, a lot of you came here in your car. The second is the pharmaceutical industry. Many of you work in the pharmaceutical industry. Out of these 2 industries, which one produces the highest carbon emission? In other words, which industry pollutes more? 2 seconds to think about it. 1, 2. Raise your hand if you think it's the car industry. Okay, quite a lot over there. Some here. Okay, few here. Raise your hand if you think it's the pharmaceutical industry. Ooh. Okay. The answers seem mixed. These groups seem to think it's the car industry. This group seems to think it's the pharma. Let's see what the answer is. So the car industry produces around 46 metric ton of carbon emission each year. Interested to see what the pharmaceutical industry produces? 55. And you're right, the majority wins. Sorry, Hightappers. It is indeed the pharmaceutical industry which produces significantly, and it's contributing to climate change. Next, we go down under to Australia and see what the Australians have to say. The Australians did a study on the carbon emission from their health system, and they found, surprisingly, 40% of their healthcare is either harmful or low-value care. And this is quite surprising, right? This is not good. This 40% of carbon emission could instead be used to drive 30 billion miles of car in Bangkok in a year. It could also be used to power over 3 million homes every year. Instead, that 40% of the emission is as useful or as useless as 260 cows burping and farting all year round. Not good, right? So why am I here talking about the emission from the pharma industry, the 40% emission that is being wasted in the Australian care? It's because, as Newton said, what goes around comes back around. And all this emission is actually causing and accelerating climate change, which has been cited as one of the biggest threats to modern human society. The emissions from the pharmaceutical industry, the health sector from Australia, has the potential to increase global temperature each year. That temperature, in turn, causes us to get sick and also us to die. When we get sick, we go to the hospital, correct? It turns out that when we go to the hospital, that act alone also creates a lot of carbon emission. And that emission, again, feeds back to increase in climate change, increase in temperature, people getting sick, people going to the hospital. This vicious cycle continues again and again and again. Not good? I hope I have answered as to why we need to redefine what we consider as value in healthcare. One of the founding principles of a good healthcare is not harming the patients, correct? And if that's the case, our solutions, which is hospitals, healthcare, the clinical practice, should not be part of the problem. But as shown earlier, it appears that the healthcare system, the health sector as a whole, is contributing to the problem. We are creating our own patients, and that needs to be stopped. So how can we do that? We need to redefine what we mean by value in healthcare. In the past, we consider health, economy, but now we need to also include climate change and environmental impact of these health interventions that we include in our packages. How can we do this? We resort to what we know, HTA, right? We all talk about HTA, how it's helped us maximize efficiency in healthcare. So we go back to what we know best. In the past, we look at the incremental costs, incremental benefits of health interventions, but now we can also start looking at what is the impact of that health intervention on climate change and on environment. The concept is called Green HTA. It is new, but there is a lot of movement from the HTA community globally to create new methods and also transform the HTA processes for this to happen. So what are we doing in Thailand to make this happen? We are doing 3 things. The first, we are creating a system in Thailand so that all hospitals within the public domain can report their annual carbon emission on an annual basis. After understanding the baseline emission from these hospitals, we can identify where are the hotspots, where are the majority of the emissions coming from, and whether they are low value or harmful, and if they are, how can we change that? The second, we are conducting a pilot study, a case study on green HTA, comparing treatment options for dialysis and seeing which one is better value for money, not only in terms of cost, health, but also environment. And lastly, we are looking forward to speaking with people like you in this room, policymakers, researchers, funders, academics, the industry, on how we can make this a practice moving forward. So here are my 3 take-home messages. First, the health sector is a significant contributor to environmental damage and climate change. And if we want to keep our principle of doing no harm, we need to redefine what we consider as value. And that value must include environmental impact of health interventions on climate change. Let me end my talk by going back to my famous and favorite scientist, Albert Einstein. The fundamental question in healthcare, which is what do we consider as value for money in healthcare, has not changed and will not change. However, if Thailand wants to continue impressing the world with its strong public health institutions, and if we as a community want to create a safer and healthier planet for us, but also future generation, our answers must change. ขอบคุณครับ
Thank you very much indeed, Sarin, for coming today and share your expertise with us on environmental economics.